Welcome to Ode to Games. My name's Logan Plant. We got a huge news week to talk about this episode. Joining me, Kevin Valine. How's it going, Kev?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Monster Hunter Rise, second full week in. Zach Ross, I know you're the same. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Monster Hunter Rise, second full weekend.
Yeah,
Yes, second
you're
full
done
weekend.
with
Correct.
Yes.
you're done with all the single player content.
I officially finished it all. I'm like almost 60 hours in, I think.
Oh man, we're gonna talk about that more later in the show. But speaking of Monster Hunter, I got a little show and tell I'd like to do. I picked up 2 new games in the franchise this week. So if you're watching our video version, you can see what I have, or you can just hear about it if you're on audio. I got Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate.
Oh, another
on
Wii U
Wii
game.
Ooh.
Yep.
So what's left
double
on
whammy.
Wii U now? Still collecting?
Need those Mario and Olympics
Oh,
games,
God.
the Wonderful 101, a couple other things. Yeah, it comes with a manual, which is nice,
Man,
but
throwback.
yeah, and it's actually like a real manual. It's not just like the safety information when you open it like a lot of the later
Don't
manuals
eat the
was.
disc.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. I was a little worried when I got it. There was like a price tag inside the
Ooh.
sleeve, but it was just stuck in there. It wasn't actually a sticker.
yeah.
So that was nice. So I don't have to use one of my like 7 spare Star Fox guard boxes.
Save those for,
and then
for bigger things.
My other show and tell is the original Monster Hunter on PlayStation 2.
Wow, that's going way back.
The quality
Yeah.
on that.
I don't know if it's legit. I
Oh.
said I had kind of a weird show and tell. I was telling you guys. I don't know. I can't tell if this is legit. So it has a manual also. So here's the inside, and it has the little.
Okay.
It has a PlayStation logo at the top.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
No,
And
like,
here's
memory
Jack
card
2
a lot up
for
top.
comparison,
Yeah.
which has a memory card holder.
Yeah. I remember all of
That's
them
all.
having
Well, was it?
So, and
Was
it
it
feels
new?
like a little glossier too. It feels like weird and glossy.
Have you like checked, like
I
in
haven't
comparison
done
to
enough
real
research.
ones?
Yeah, I haven't done enough
Curious.
research to know if it's real or bootleg. But the disc, I think the disc is legit. Like it has a like here underneath it says like PlayStation 2. Can you see that? Yeah. So and then the manual though is one of those stupid manuals I was talking about where it's just the safety information.
That was on. They did that on PS2.
and I'm like this
Not often.
And then it says a printable manual for this game can be downloaded from capcom.com/manual/mh. And it's like, really? Is this real? I don't know if this is bootleg or not. I really can't tell if this is legit.
Weird. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should
I haven't
like
tested
tried
out
it
the
out?
disc yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
do
not
that
yet.
and maybe like see if someone's done like an unboxing of it somewhere, like a PS2
Yeah.
version, and see if it's different.
Yeah,
Weird.
it was pretty cheap. It was only like $20. So it wasn't like I paid top dollar for this retro title. But yeah, I can't tell. I can't tell if this is real or not.
That's weird. Well,
Yeah, very strange.
good luck. Good luck figuring out if that's real or not.
Yeah, I know I feel like you guys have played more. Did you have a PS2, Kevin, or no?
No, I have a PS2 now,
did.
but
But Zach, when you were playing PS2 back in the day, were there ever games that didn't have a memory card holder like that?
I recall every game I ever owned having one.
It's weird.
I
I got
I think what might have happened is that the guy who sold it to you had the disc,
but didn't
and then
have a
he
case,
just had to
yeah.
recreate everything else just to bump up the price.
That
Yeah,
happens.
maybe.
Yeah, where you'll like
Yeah.
swap out for maybe a
'cause you can,
DVD
like-
case or something.
Yeah.
You can get those cases pretty cheap, get the cover and all that like reprinted. That's probably why it's like the instructional or the informational little pamphlet instead of a
Yeah.
full book.
Like
Yeah.
maybe
He might
like,
have just
maybe the plastic case got like cracked, and he was like, "This isn't gonna sell," so you like made a new case but had everything else, and then put it in. I don't know.
Yeah. And it was
That manual's
sealed. It was sealed in plastic when I got it,
Oh,
really.
which is really
It's extra
weird.
strange.
Yeah. Anyways, that's my
Weird.
copy of Monster Hunter on PS2. We'll move on from that though and get into the news because we got a lot to go through this week. First up, is it just me or does Sony look like they're going back to PS3 Sony? Even more so after the report that came out this week. A report from Bloomberg that says there is a Last of Us Part 1 remake in the works. that's kind of the main headline from there. So there's a lot of other stuff that goes into this. Basically, there was a smaller Sony studio codenamed, or sorry, not codenamed. There was a smaller Sony studio started by Michael Mumbauer, and they were a support studio that was working on like helping Naughty Dog finish The Last of Us Part 2, helping other studios get their major Sony exclusives across the finish line. But then eventually they decided they wanted to make their own game, and they toyed around with an Uncharted 1 remake, which was rumored. This is something that was rumored like last year, I think, but eventually settled on a Last of Us Part 1 remake. And then it was reported in this article by Jason Schreier on Bloomberg that Sony wasn't giving them the funding they needed. They weren't giving them the staffing they needed. They weren't treating them like a legitimate AAA studio, like a Naughty Dog or a Guerrilla or something like that, or a Santa Monica. And eventually they pulled the project away from this studio, gave it to Naughty Dog, and now this studio has fallen back into the role of a support studio, which is what they were trying to break away from for Naughty Dog. And among this also, there's report about Sony Bend pitching a Days Gone sequel, which Zach has started, by the way, which we're going to talk about later. Also, that's timing. That's a huge headline for this show. But a Days Gone sequel rejected, and there's a new Uncharted in the works too. Basically, Sony doubling down on their popular franchises, shutting down this smaller studio, and this also comes in the wake of all the Sony Japan stuff, right? There's a lot of struggles over there with talent leaving because they've been kind of shutting down these smaller projects and really shifting their focus to the big budget AAA franchises that have been successful for them lately. So a lot to unpack and digest there. But Kevin, this does not make Sony look very good.
No, you look at it from basically every angle, whether you're talking about The Last of Us remake, whether you're talking about Sony Bend, whether you're talking about Japan Studio and everything they're going through. None of it looks very good for PlayStation. And I don't see the reasoning behind any of this. First, with the Last of Us, you already have a remaster that is available on PS4 with a backwards compatibility for PS5. So
which still looks really
good. It looks amazing.
Like, for example, if you're talking about going like a generation back for like a remaster or a remake, like if there's no backwards compatibility, that makes more sense. Kind of why you see like the Uncharted trilogy come out on PS4, because they weren't backwards compatible, and you brought them
up.
Or
Demon's Souls on PS5.
Or Demon's Souls. But here, there is a good way to play it on PS5 with a version that is already remastered. So that doesn't really make any sense. Mm-hmm. With Bend, I know that Days Gone had kind of a rough launch, but from what it sounds like, now that the game is stable, people seem to like it a lot, and it would make sense to give Bend another shot at it. It sounded like it was financially successful too, relatively.
Yeah, it sold well.
So it would make sense to at least give them another shot at one more game and see how that goes. At the very least, for them, it sounds like they're working on an entirely new project that isn't tied to an existing IP. So that's good at least. But then everything else with Japan Studio, the developers behind Gravity Rush and Everybody's Golf and all that stuff, it seems like it's getting shut down, and basically the reasoning is Sony doesn't feel like it's within their interest to make more niche titles that may only be successful in Japan, or if they come over here have limited appeal. And that sucks. Like, those games fill out a library. Yes, you have those big titles that will bring some people to the platform, but you need those smaller titles to fill out the rest of the library. Also, I feel like if they're just doubling down on, you got Last of Us, the Naughty Dog properties, God of War, and Horizon, that's going to get stale very quick. Just look at Microsoft.
And throw Ghost in there too. Ghost of Tsushima fits into that category as well.
But I feel like that's what people had a problem with Microsoft. You had Halo and you had Gears, and then you had Forza, which is different, but still, like, that was the big three, and that was it. And when that was all they were really bringing to the table, it got incredibly stale for people. And I feel like if they go down the direction of just focusing on these big blockbuster titles that have their own feel, but also are kind of similar in how they play with this, like third-person action games, I feel like
Spider-Man too is
Spider-Man
is I don't think I mentioned. Yeah,
I feel like it could get very stale for a lot of people.
Yeah, Zach, what are your thoughts on this?
And yeah, just nothing that hasn't already been said. It just sucks to see the treatment of some smaller studios on behalf of And Sony doesn't have the best rep coming into this, so I'm sure the marketing and PR team have taken quite a hit after this, and I don't see how they could really keep going in this direction. Just keeping that main focus on all of these big AAA titles will really kill it in terms of an indie platform, which I know the Switch is heading more in that direction anyways. So, I mean, they're really just cementing themselves as one of the bad guys in the whole industry. So it's really hard to see, growing up as a Sony person, that this is kind of starting to go the way in which maybe I'm leaning towards other directions now that they're getting this bad PR and bad reputation for treating their smaller studios this way. It does kind of suck to see.
Yeah, and like you look at something like Days Gone, right? It's like so many series get off to a rough start, right? Like Uncharted 1 is not that great. Assassin's Creed 1 is actually quite bad, and it's when you look at the sequels that it's like these franchises really take off, and it's like Days Gone 2 probably could have been really good. I mean, that team I'm sure learned a lot in the development of it. Sequels almost always improve on the original in most cases, and it's like, man, I think the quote is that Sony's doubling down on games that are too big to fail, and it's like, to me, that's not how you find success. You find success when you take risks. I mean, yeah, it's like, I don't understand why these companies, after they have a generation where they come out on top, why do they rest on their laurels and get confident and just take these big steps backwards? Because it's been proven time and time again that it's when you take risks is where you find success. And they have enough money that they can afford to release a game that's not going to light the world on fire. It's not like they're struggling and need to dwindle their teams down to only release these blockbuster hits. So it just, I don't know. It's just kind of it's a really sad and kind of gross move to see, especially when you look at the other side and see how Xbox is really kind of acting the exact opposite of this right now.
Yeah, and going back to like finding those series, you could look to Guerrilla, which is now a very, very big part of what Sony's doing with Horizon. But before that, you had Killzone, which I think was moderately successful, but nothing that really blew up. And then, boom, you have Horizon, and there's an entire new series. If you're just focusing on a few developers creating IPs from existing properties, then you probably won't find those. Not nearly as often.
Yeah, and it's like there's some good stuff in there too. Like, I've really enjoyed my time with Everybody's Golf. You look at something like Astrobot, that's such a tiny little thing they released that now is a big success, and it's like now they're drawing the line in the sand that, okay, we're not going to take any more experiments now from this point on. It's like you were saying, Kevin, Horizon. Well, if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't be hyping up Forbidden West right now. It would just be Killzone 8 or whatever if you just kept them to keep doing exactly what they were doing. So yeah, it's just really disappointing to see, and it's almost like PlayStation isn't going to be enough anymore if you want like a single console experience. I don't know if it's going to be the best pick anymore, because yeah, it really is lifted by its exclusives, and it has great third party and indie support. But it's like, man, without some of those smaller quirky things, I think that's a big thing that people are going to be missing out on.
And then you're just going to have to compete with Xbox in a couple of years when their studios start coming out with their original titles.
Yeah.
And possible Bethesda exclusives too.
And something I think broke in the last week we didn't talk about did we talk about on the show that MLB The Show is coming to Game Pass?
We did not. That is also a big deal. Yeah. There goes another exclusive.
Former exclusives coming to Game Pass now? It's like, what's happening over at Sony right now? It kind of looks like a train wreck to me. Ever since the PS5 came out, it just has not been a great message from them. And yeah, I'm someone who wants to buy the show. I am not thrilled about $70 titles, and now I'm looking at Xbox and I'm like, man, a sports title that's just going to get recycled every year on Game Pass. That's perfect. That's a ton of value. Yeah. That's really great. So yeah, I honestly can't really believe that move. So yeah, I don't really like what I'm seeing from Sony right now. It really feels like I could see the tides shift to Xbox predominant between those two this generation. Nintendo's just on another level with the Switch right now.
And they're always doing their own thing too. Yeah. It's always Microsoft and Sony going head to head, and then whether Nintendo is succeeding or failing, they're off doing their own thing. So yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of Nintendo, it's like I look at the Switch and all the weird things that have come out on that are risks that didn't have to pay off. You got some that has been very successful, like Ring Fit Adventure is selling like crazy. It's a great game people love. You have some that were less successful, like Nintendo Labo, but it's still a really weird, cool thing they went and did. And it's like you have that in addition to the Marios and the Zeldas and the Pokemon. And it's like that's what makes Nintendo is these really weird side things they do at the same time. You look at something like Splatoon, that's one of their pillar franchises at this point, and it's only 6 years old. It's something that they took a risk on a few years ago and paid off in dividends. And it's like, man, if they're just like, okay, we're shutting it down, no more risks. We just got to keep pumping out these franchises everyone knows, which they still do quite often. But it's like you'll always have those things. Jump Rope Challenge. What the heck even is that? It's this thing that like developers made on the side and they just pushed out because why not?
Or something like
battle
Arms,
royales
too.
they're doing.
Like,
yeah.
Whether or not they're gonna be crazy successful, they're gonna give it a shot. And when you're in a position like Nintendo or like Sony is, where your consoles are selling extremely well and your games are also selling extremely well, you kind of have the leeway to do that, to experiment. You'll probably still have those pillar titles that'll sell really well, but having a successful console with good games on it gives you the ability to go out and try new things, and some will work and some won't. But that gives you the chance.
And even I feel like it's interesting with Nintendo because I feel like when they're on bottom or on top, they experiment. On the Wii U, they had a ton of really cool experiments because they were seeing if anything would stick to the wall. Like you had things like NES Remix was a super cool thing to come out of the Wii U era, or you had New Super Luigi U, which was like a really different type of side-scrolling Mario game, even though it looked the last 6 all have.
Well, you know.
Super Mario Maker, like just really cool experiments. And on the Switch, we've seen really cool stuff too. 1-2 Switch isn't the best game, but they were still trying to do something really unique there. And it's like I look at that and I look at Xbox and how many studios Microsoft's acquiring and how many different things they're doing. And then I look at PlayStation, it's like I don't want 3 third-person action games a year, and that's it. Like, that's not what I want from them. It's like I love those games, but I love them coming along every so often and then having other things to do in the middle. Final Fantasy VII Remake is another one that fits right into that niche. It's like they're all a little different, but when you break it down, that's what you expect from PlayStation exclusives. So it's just kind of disappointing. But I want to talk about the other part of this. Who is asking for a Last of Us remake?
Yeah.
Who in the world wants that?
I don't know. Hearing the Uncharted 1 remake, I'm like, I don't even need that, but I'd want that more.
It makes a little bit more sense than a Last of Us remake.
Like,
Uncharted 1 holds up. It came out in 2007, and it looks arguably worse than the rest of the franchise. But The Last of Us, something that has already been remastered for PS4, and like you said, can be easily played on PS5 in a very well-running and good-looking version, it doesn't even need a remake, because what are they going to improve? The slight combat improvements from this game, are they just going to bring those back? Like, there's nothing they could do to the story.
I don't want them to do anything to the story.
Exactly.
Even if they want to, I don't want that. You've already got the show coming out too.
Exactly. The show will be coming out, which is a retelling of the first game. So it'll just be this first game being shoved down our throats for a few more years to come. So we have that to look forward to.
And I just made the big connection that maybe that's why they're remaking it. So when the show drops, they're like, oh, here's this. Go buy a PS5 if you even can. Go buy a PS5 so you can buy Last of Us Part 1. I assume Part 1 and Part 2 would be some sort of dual release on PS5. I think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to be the remake of Part 1 and like an enhanced Part 2 released for $70 if I had to guess. But yeah, I mean, 1 still looks good. 2 looks significantly better.
Yeah,
absolutely. 2 looks incredible, but I don't play 1 and think, ooh, this doesn't look very good. I don't think that at all.
Great, especially the PS4 version that was already remastered and already came with the DLC.
Yeah, I went and I played Part 1 right after Part 2 last year, and I thought that Part 1 looked really good. I thought that it looked awesome. So, yeah, whatever. I think it doesn't make any sense. And of all the games to remake, Uncharted 1, you could have expanded it. You could have blown up the story, done a little more, maybe like brought the voice actors back to record more and just really flesh that game out, because not even close. It's the shortest Uncharted. You can rip through that thing in like 5.5 hours. Yeah. Uncharted 1 is so short. So I could see an expanded one of that. Like you're in these really samey jungles the entire time. Like almost a reimagining of Uncharted 1. Could have been really, really cool. And I would have played that. But this, it's like, I'm not going to play this.
If we're talking about Naughty Dog too, Zach, you've been playing through the Jack games. I played through those earlier. I'd much rather see those too. Like any of Naughty Dog's other IPs besides The Last of Us specifically, just because it doesn't need it. There are a bunch of other games that are much more deserving of being brought back with a remake than The Last of Us Part 1. And I can't... I wonder what kind of a market it'll have in terms of how many people will be wanting to pick it up, especially when the other version is available for probably a lot cheaper. If you're charging $70 for this version and I could go pick up the remastered PS4 version for $20 or whatever, what kind of a market are you going to have? Are they going to pull that somehow? Like, are they just going to be like, no, PS4 version not available anymore. You got to buy this one.
I feel like it's like when you think of the core reasons for a remake, it's either this game feels old or looks old and is just generally not enjoyable in its current state, or it's not accessible.
Yeah,
like you can't find it, you can't play it. The Last of Us is neither of those. I just checked. It's on the PS Plus collection on PS5. So if you have a PS5 and you subscribe to PS Plus, you can play The Last of Us remastered with the DLC for no additional cost. And as we said, it plays fine. It plays very well. So there's just no reason for this. Uncharted 1, yeah, the gameplay's not as tight, doesn't look as great. That'd be a better option for a remake. Something like Demon's Souls, that game looks incredible compared to the original on PS5. Like, that was a cool game to go back and remake that never got a second life on PS4 like The Last of Us did. And The Last of Us came out at the tail end of the PS3 generation when games were looking phenomenal. It's like if Microsoft came out and they're like, we're remaking Halo 4. It's like, why? Why would you do that? That game still looks good on its original console. It just doesn't make sense. Like, I look at like something like Skyward Sword HD. I mean, we talked about we don't love the price point for that, but that's a good game to go polish up, give an HD remaster, give button controls, and throw out on Switch. That's a good pick, I think, for a remaster.
And
even though it came out...
Going back to if it's accessible or not, on the platform that most people are going to own, it is not very accessible. Like, you need a Wii or a Wii U, and a lot of people don't have those anymore. So in terms of accessibility, it makes sense to bring it to the Switch because there's no other way to play it on there.
So that's one that makes sense. This one just doesn't make sense. Even though it'll probably sell incredibly well. Maybe they're trying to bring in that new legion of fans after the show comes out. Like, hey, come play this shiny new version.
How many fans could this show possibly bring in that aren't already fans?
I think a lot. How many people watched Game of Thrones that didn't read Game of Thrones? Literally millions.
I don't know, but I think about that too, and it was like with The Witcher, for example, that brought in a lot of new people, but they just bought the old one because it was cheap, and that worked out fine. Like when that show came out, the concurrent players on Steam like skyrocketed, and I could see that happen for just the base PS4 remastered version on PS5 when the show comes out. That could entirely happen.
Yeah.
You don't need this version.
Yeah, but there will probably be a lot of people who don't know better who walk to the store and see a brand new $70 version of Part 1 and Part 2 and buy it, and that's just more money. So, yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more Last of Us fans because of the show. You look at The Walking Dead also. How many, like, that existed prior to the TV show. How many new fans did that bring in? Also millions. I think this is going to be huge. I think Last of Us is a very common household name within the video game community. But outside of it, probably not a lot of people know what it is. So I think that show is going to launch The Last of Us into the mainstream, and I can see Sony wanting to push a product alongside that, which is why I'm surprised we're not seeing something Uncharted with the Uncharted movie, because that would make sense too.
Yeah.
What I was thinking.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, looking at everything that PlayStation's been doing basically around since the PS5 launch to now, of having all of this come out, having the save transfer debacle, having no real backwards compatibility on PS4 when you have the competitors doing all backwards compatibility of all of their platforms. Like every decision,
and the Vita and the PS3 store.
the Vita and the PS3 store shutting down. Non-expandable memory until the summer. There's just like every single decision that they've made in regards to the PS5 and their legacy content is all rubbing me the wrong way. Like every decision.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I wonder how well Xbox is going to do, because they got to be seeing this. And it just reminds me of like E3 2013 when they're like, here's how you share a game on PS4, and they like are making fun of Xbox. Like, Xbox needs to capitalize on this and just make it clear how streamlined everything is on their platform. Hey, we don't need to remake Halo because the Master Chief Collection's on Game Pass right now with every Halo. Like, they need to push that message hard, because now's the time to strike.
Yeah. And it's frustrating to see companies continue to fall into this cycle over and over again. You had PlayStation dunking on Xbox in the last gen, and then the previous generation you had Xbox dunking on PlayStation with the price point of the PS3. Like, it is just cyclical. One company like rockets out ahead, and then they're just like, oh, it doesn't matter, we can do whatever the nuts we want. And then they look terrible. The other company rolls in, does all of these consumer-friendly moves. They rocket out in front, and then they get complacent, and then the other company comes back. Like, come on. How many times do we have to go through this before you realize, hey, maybe you just keep on pushing your foot on the gas like the entire time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what Nintendo does next, because they're like on their own cycle, but you had Wii U way down at the bottom, and then Switch way back at the top. So is the next thing going to be a big flop? I don't think so, but
or not.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hopefully not.
And from the mistakes of the Wii U.
Exactly. Like, I don't think they'll be like Switch U. I think it'd be like Switch 2, which would be neat. But anyways, we'll move on from that. Just some baffling moves from Sony, which is having us scratching our heads. Let's move on to another remaster from the 2010s that's been rumored this week, and that's Sonic Colors. So there's a team that helps work on localization, I believe it is, and they like had a list go out of games they're working on this year, and one of them was Sonic Colors Remastered for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. And it seems like this could be a thing. Sonic Colors coming back. This is the Wii game from 2010. We've all played it. Zach, what do you think about this one potentially getting the remastered treatment?
Well, out of Sonic Colors specifically, it's definitely not the worst Sonic game that we've played. I think that, the Wisps, how they use that, it's pretty unique. It makes it a very standalone and unique Sonic game in the way that it played. I had fun playing it. I like it out of a lot of other Sonic games I'd choose. So
there's not too many good options for 3D Sonic games.
No, there's not a lot of great options in terms of remaking Sonic. There's a lot of great options because you can fix almost every Sonic game. Try. This one, I think, doesn't need a huge amount of remaking.
No, I don't either.
It was on the Wii. It could be bumped up to HD to look better. But in terms of the way it played, I mean, they could have chosen a much more broken Sonic game. But, Sonic Colors, good game as it is. That's probably why they chose it. I don't know if I'm going to play it, depending on how much they change. But, maybe a new Sonic would be nice. I'd like a new Sonic. A good new Sonic. There we go.
It's been so long.
It's too long
since a new Sonic. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, Kevin, what are your thoughts on Sonic Colors coming back?
Well, like Zach said, this is a Wii game, and I feel like Wii games can benefit a lot from being upgraded into HD. You had Mario Galaxy, which already looked very good on the Wii, but you see that on the Switch, it looks fantastic. Xenoblade looks very muddy on the Wii, but you bring that up now and it looks a lot better. So I think graphically they could do a lot with Colors, and I think the art style of Colors and the style of it could really look great if they bring it up to HD and kind of smooth things out a little bit. But beyond that, I don't think the game really needs a whole lot of fixes. I think the game is as it is, warts and all. Like, the problems with Sonic Colors aren't going to be fixed. Like, they're not just like weird like gameplay quirks or like crashes or something like that. It's more so just like whether you like the style of game that it is, whether you like the more 2D sections or some of the shorter levels. They're not going to fix that or change that. So I think it's fine.
Yeah.
And again, it's only available on the Wii/Wii U with backwards compatibility, so bringing it back for people to play. It's not the worst Sonic game, and I think people would have fun with it. But yeah, I agree. I'd like to see a new game, or would be really cool to see something done with like an Adventure 1, Adventure 2, like combo somehow would be really cool. But Colors isn't a terrible idea.
It happened.
No, Colors is good. My problem with Colors is, so it's getting a little deep into it. There's like 7 worlds, and Act 1 of each world is phenomenal. It's so good. It's that full level, like 3 to 5 minute run, classic boosting 3D Sonic level. And then after that, the rest of the levels in each world are where they really break it down to be more puzzle focused and really more precise 2D platforming focused, which that 3D Sonic in that style just isn't really suited for. They get that type of gameplay a lot better a year later in Generations with the 2D classic Sonic levels. So I don't know, it might be worth it just to see those really good levels brought into HD and look really great, because the levels after that, they aren't bad. They aren't like horrible like some of the night sections are, some of the levels in Secret Rings that are just atrocious. They're just kind of forgettable. So it's definitely one of the better 3D Sonic games. It'd be a good one to bring back. I'm just ready for something new. I feel like we were supposed to hear about it last year, and COVID, man, is just like, there was a report that came out last week on Fanbyte that's just really talked about the full extent of how bad COVID has impacted game development, and I think we're feeling the effects of that right now. Zach and I are going to talk about Monster Hunter Rise in a bit, which I think was visibly impacted by COVID-19, and then to still not hear anything from Sonic Team, and maybe they're just pumping this thing out like, man, we got to release something Sonic related, and this could just be on its way and to be a stopgap for the next game, which is fine. There's definitely worse choices. I think we were all kind of hoping for a full-blown adventure ground-up remake. So we'll see if this ends up being real, but if it's $30 or $40, which is what they've been putting Sonic games at lately, yeah, why not? Has some cool multiplayer stuff too that we didn't really try when we played it together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'd be good. I think it's a solid choice for an HD remake. I think I texted you guys like this, The Last of Us, Skyward Sword. I'm just getting tired of it. I'm getting
too
tired
much
of these remakes.
With these new games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Because we're nearing the gap between Lost World and Forces. Forces is almost 4 years old. Let that sink in.
That's weird.
Yeah, Forces is almost 4 years old, and the gap between Lost World and Forces was 4 years. It was 13 to 17. Now we're 17 to 21, and still no word of a new 3D Sonic, because we knew about Forces in the summer of 2016, a year and a half before it came out. So yeah, it's weird to me that we still don't know what's going on with that series.
Yeah, hopefully we'll find out something this year. What is it an anniversary for him, or?
Last year was.
Oh
no, it is this year. Sorry, it is this year.
Man, they better at least announce something for the anniversary. You'd hope it wasn't just Sonic Colors, but maybe they are desperate. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the 30th anniversary this year. But they missed Sonic's anniversary, and his 25th was 2016, and both Mania and Forces got pushed to 17. So maybe they'll.
But did we know about those this year?
Yeah, we knew about both of them.
So at the very least, you would hope that this year they have something to announce. Whether or not they can make it come out this year, who knows? But hopefully they'll have some announcements in the pipe sometime this year.
Yeah. Well, another game that... Oh, go ahead, Cal.
Yeah, you don't need to rush it like you did, Sonic 06 for the 15th anniversary? Please don't do that. If it needs to be pushed for some sort of quality assurance, please do that. I don't want another Sonic 06.
Yeah, they had... And then Generations was the 20th anniversary game in 2011, and that game is still the pinnacle. Still the pinnacle.
It's gotten better than that.
The series. It is not. All right, let's move on, though. I think another game probably... Deathloop, just a month and a half before its release, has been pushed from May 21st to September 14th. Very similar to Cyberpunk's first delay that we saw last year, which was April to September. Zach, how do you feel?
Honestly, at this point, it doesn't even hurt. There's so many delays of these AAA titles that it's seemingly to be expected at this point. We were getting fairly close, so my ear was to Twitter to see if anything ever happened, and then it did happen, and it's not terribly far of a push. It's what, 4 months? So
Yeah.
it's just a really big surprise because based on the amount that they've shown of this game and the amount of trailers that they've released, it seemed done to me. They were pushing so much content in these trailers that it was like, okay, maybe it is done, maybe it's ready to go, but no. Apparently, COVID had affected them more than I thought, and they are delaying it. Only 4 months. It's coming out in September, hopefully. I'm just a little worried that, you know, Cyberpunk has made me very wary of these types of situations in that I don't want them to release something that's unplayable. I want to have fun playing it. And this was one of the things that was going to push me to buy a PS5, which is now might be a little delayed too. So who knows? This is a big push. I'm just glad it's hopefully coming out this year. And I'm not super surprised on the front that it got delayed, but kind of surprised on the front that it looked done to me.
I just think no one really wants to be the next Cyberpunk, which is why we're seeing delays like this. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
One wants to risk.
Yeah. You don't want to risk another Cyberpunk situation. Well, at least Zach, for you, this means that you don't have to really rush to get a PS5 if it's still not available on the market come a month when the game was supposed to come out.
I was hoping by now they'd be a little more accessible. Not true.
Yeah, I guess it sounds like that chip shortage just isn't really getting any better, and so maybe by the time September rolls around, it'll be a little bit easier to pick up a PlayStation and pick up this game. But yeah, it makes sense. Again, I'm not gonna be playing this when it comes out, but you hope that these delays are to avoid it being the next Cyberpunk and not another Cyberpunk situation where they did delay it a number of times and then it came out and it was still crap. I don't think that'll be the case here. But hey, if the delay happens to make the game better, I feel like that is entirely necessary. But I do agree that it was a little bit weird that, man, we saw it all the time, like and it was long trailers too. And it was just like over and over and over. And so now it's just like, all right, time to see more of these, because on the next
got another 4 months of trailers now.
On the next PlayStation showcase or whatever, it'll probably be back because they've got to hype up the new release date now. So I just thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, if a game needs to be delayed, I'd rather have it be delayed than come out broken. But that requires the game to not come out broken even after the delays, and that is also kind of a little bit of a crapshoot sometimes as to if that's actually going to happen. But if there's a chance that they can avoid it being broken on launch, take the time.
Yeah, I think that I think also it just is coming out at a better time for it now. I think spring is really crowded. You got Resident Evil Village coming out. You got the Mass Effect trilogy re-release coming out. I think there's just a lot kind of overshadowing it, and September is kind of that sweet spot before everything drops in the fall that I think maybe it'll get a bit more attention now these games from this studio don't sell historically super well. So I think that if you move it away from these things people are really excited for, like Resident Evil and Mass Effect, that more people might take a chance on it. And also there'll be more PS5s out there. This isn't coming to PS4 like a lot of things coming out are now. So more people will have PS5s by September too. Just a bigger base to go and pick this game up. So I think it's a good thing for it in the end. It just sucks right now because we've seen so much of it in the last year. But yeah, sorry Zach, but now less of a rush to go out and grab a PS5.
Yeah, and on the front that people don't really play games from that studio, go play Dishonored, please. All three Dishonored games are amazing. Logan needs to play them. Kevin, you need to play them. Everyone needs to play them.
Yeah, well,
Game Pass.
They're on Game Pass. Yeah, so Xbox players can play them pretty easily now.
And Death Proof plays the exact same way, apparently. They probably used the engine that they made from the ground up for the second Dishonored game, which plays very well. I like the way it plays.
Yeah, just gotta wait another couple months.
Fortunately.
Also a couple months out, Neo, The World Ends With
You guys getting
coming
excited?
out on July 27th. Woo! Nah. Yeah, I've very little to say about that. I'm not excited.
Maybe
not excited. I think it'll be better because the gameplay on the Switch remake was just weird. So I'm sure it'll be more suited for modern consoles.
Yeah, you hope that that now that they're building it for Switch and it's coming out to PS4 as well, that they're building it for consoles and not building it for a handheld, they would make sure that the control system actually works for consoles. So hopefully, at the very least, the control problems from that re-release on Switch will be non-existent for this one.
Yeah. Let's move on from that one.
I just threw that in there because I know you guys love the game a lot. So.
Always got to mention one of the classics. This is a big story, though. E3 is coming back for an online show in 2021. We talked about this a little bit before. We kind of thought that everyone was going to say nah, but Xbox, Nintendo, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two, Warner Brothers, and a handful of others are all confirmed to be there. They're going to go. We still don't know about Sony.
I think
EA,
Sony is a no, and the other ones are an unknown as of now. I think Sony has already come out and said that they're not coming. But that was kind of expected from previous.
Because they haven't been anyways. Yeah. But, I mean, you got Xbox and Nintendo alone. Ubisoft always does a big conference. Like, this could look... We'll see what it looks like. And, yeah, Doug Bowser had a tweet saying, hey, we're gonna be there and make it exciting for the fans. Nintendo's last E3 Direct kicked butt. It was incredible. It's where Breath of the Wild 2 was announced. It was where they showed a bunch of Luigi's Mansion, Link's Awakening, Hero, and Banjo and Smash. It was just huge, a huge Direct. So I'm excited to see what they come out with. But yeah, E3 coming back digitally. I think I'm mostly just surprised that companies are jumping on board.
Yeah. When we were talking about this a while back, I think that was the big question, because I'm sure the ESA really wanted to do something this year. It was just a matter of if the other companies had realized, like, hey, we can just do our own thing and it'll be fine. And it seems like maybe some companies are still thinking that way. You know, of course, you don't have Sony, but they've been out for a while. Another company, Square Enix, who are starting to do their own things. They haven't been confirmed yet for E3, so maybe they don't show up. So maybe some companies are going that direction of doing their own things, but as of now, the companies that they have should be enough to prop up a show. Who knows, a couple years down the line, but for at least this year, that lineup should be solid enough.
Yeah, Zach, how do you feel about E3 coming back?
Yeah, like we said, it's definitely surprising the way we were talking about it earlier this year. It seemed like everyone was leaning to do their own thing. Everyone has been doing their own thing, and now that they've got a solid base for it, they're like, hey, let's go back to E3. I think it might be a bit of a move for the fans. People still like E3. People still love watching E3. I think a lot of these places are still doing it just to connect to their fans a little bit. Less so of a smart business move. Is good. I mean, it's a very consumer friendly way to go, and I'm sure they have good relations with the people at E3. I'm sure that was never really an issue. So E3 is definitely gonna stick around in some form or another, and I'm glad to see they do still have some heavy hitters for this year. I just don't know how long it's gonna hold out for.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens when they come back physically in-person events, maybe as soon as next year. But yeah, I'm excited mostly because I saw a tweet that I wholeheartedly agree with, because now Nintendo has to tell us something again. Like, they were radio silent till that Direct, what was that, last month? And they've been silent ever since. So just to see what they've got going, I imagine we'll have to see Zelda at this thing. So I'm excited. I'm mostly excited to see what Nintendo does. And Xbox, maybe we see them pull back the curtain on some of their new studios, what they're working on. And then, yeah, really anything we get is exciting, because it's just announcements are feeling fewer and far between these days, just because I think of the impact COVID's having. I think Zach and I were chatting about this the other day. Like, everything we played last year was close to the finish line when COVID hit, and now we're seeing the effects of things that weren't close to coming out that are still in deep development, that they're really having trouble pushing further along. So yeah, I think it could lead to a smaller calendar release, maybe more remasters, like if Sonic Colors comes out, stuff like that instead, which, yeah, it's kind of a shame, but hopefully we're coming out of it with vaccines and everything like that picking up, and can get back to full work capacity here in the next few months.
Yeah, I am excited to see what they'll do for the digital version of E3, but I'm still incredibly wary of whatever they decide to do for the in-person event come 2022 or whenever they're able to, because I still have not forgotten that report that came out where they were trying to use FOMO and all this other shit advertising to people in the queue lines. Like, I don't know. I don't think they can do those types of things with the online version, so I think that'll be fine. But I'm still incredibly wary of what comes next for the in-person version of E3, whenever that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but looking forward to it. I think it's safe to say that's when we'll get our next big news from Nintendo and Xbox. That's only 2 months away. So it's coming up pretty soon.
God, that's
in June.
To that.
It's weird that that's only a couple months away.
Yeah, this year's going quick. 2021.
Already almost halfway through April. Like, weird.
Yeah. It's wild. And then our last story, which can kind of segue into what we've been playing. Pac-Man 99 dropped on Switch last week. Really cool. So right after Mario 35 got delisted, Pac-Man 99 was added. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's Tetris 99, but it's Pac-Man. And I've had the chance to play some of this, and it's really, really good. I actually won the first round I played, which I did not expect. It was clutch. I have not won since. I've played probably 10 games, come close, but haven't won again. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I actually think I prefer it to Tetris and Mario versions of those. Probably just because I like Pac-Man a lot. I like Mario Bros the most, but didn't think it was super well suited to the Battle Royale format. But Pac-Man feels perfect for it. So basically, you're running around, you're chomping ghosts, and as you eat ghosts, you send little Pac-Mans to other people's screens. And if you run into one of those Pac-Mans, it slows you down so those ghosts can catch you quicker. And then as the game progresses, the game speeds up a lot. The Pac-Mans and the ghosts get faster. These new types of enemy Pac-Man show up that are red, and they are kind of stationary. And if you hit them, then your game is over. There's just kind of a lot going on at once. You can create these ghost trains, which are super cool. It's not a thing in normal Pac-Man. So you can have like 30 ghosts like in a trail, and if you just catch them head on, you just chomp through 30 straight through, and it's super satisfying, and you just send these waves of obstacles out to your opponents. But it's really, really cool. They also have this DLC pack that you can buy for $15 that unlocks like normal Pac-Man and like Time Attack and all these single player modes within Pac-Man 99. Yeah, which is pretty cool. So the thing is free for Switch Online players, but yeah, you have this $15 thing that allows you to just play Pac-Man on your Switch and all these bonus modes. So yeah, it's really cool. Wish Mario 35 wasn't delisted, even though I think this is better than it. Yeah, just I'm loving Nintendo's takes on the Battle Royale, taking these classic NES games and changing them to work in a huge multiplayer format. So yeah, it's really fun. It's really cool, and I free if you have Switch Online.
Yeah, I need to check it out sometime.
I think that instead of using classic Mario from Mario 35, I think Dr. Mario would have lent itself really well if they could have that into a Battle Royale kind of thing. I think that would have been pretty neat.
I think it's just the games where they're endless, basically. Like you have Pac-Man that's just on one screen and you're going the whole time. Tetris the exact same way. Things get faster and things get harder, but it's all on the same screen. I think it was kind of weird when you had Mario like swapping between all of these different levels and areas and things. So I think that games like Tetris and Pac-Man, and yeah, if they wanted to, Dr. Mario, I think would work really well with this format that they have.
Yeah, but super fun, just really cool. And this one doesn't fit in. It's like out, just like Tetris 99 is. So yeah, go check it out. And I might actually pay for the $15 for the bonus stuff, because I do really love Pac-Man, but I haven't like owned a version of it in a long time. And I think you can host private battles too if you have the DLC version, which is pretty neat. I don't think any of the other ones have that. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, pretty cool feature. And I love it when they're like, hey, this thing is out right now. They did that with Tetris 99 also. When they announced it in a direct, they just dropped it the same day. And it's just a really exciting thing when it's a free thing you can just download and try out, and you're in seconds, and thousands of people are playing. So yeah, I love little things like that Sony's not going to be doing anymore.
No. Sony isn't making any of that. We just need Horizon
More
and
risks.
Naughty Dog forever.
Yeah, but that's the news. If we want to go into games,
Right. So we're done with the news for the week. We'll be moving into what we have been playing. It's a lot
Try and go
in
through
terms
it
of
quick.
both hours and content, mostly for me. But we'll start with Kevin. What have you been playing this week?
More 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. I'm about halfway done with the story content. It gives you 3 sections. It gives you the story mode, the like combat mode, and then there's like a section for like looking at information and like reading through it. And it gives you a percentage for all 3. So I'm about, I think, like 48% done with the story content, and then there's another like 70% to go with the combat. And I've just been like just going with the story, and every time you finish a story section, it gives you these meta chips that you can use to unlock upgrades for your characters in the combat. So I'm going to go back to the combat and just have so many meta chips to use on upgrades. I'll be there for like a half an hour just like putting them all in and probably wiping the floor with everybody. But that'll be fine. I'm not too concerned about that. But I've still been enjoying it a lot. It's slowly showing things to you in the story, and you're starting to like piece things together of how things work. And I really like how you've got all of these different characters, and for the most part, you can kind of play them as you see fit. You know, they have certain things that need to happen for parts of their story to unlock. Once you get to a certain point, maybe you need to finish a combat section or finish another part of a character's story so it all connects up. But it makes it so that depending on who you are playing it, the way that you figure these things out will change based on which characters you played first, and you know, pieces fit together differently as you're playing through a certain character, and then you may get to a point in that character's story, go back to another character, and they just show up like you've already done that section, and then you figure it out from the other character's perspective. So I've really been enjoying it, and I think the big reveal is still yet to come. I think there's a big thing that still needs to be revealed yet, so I'm excited about that. It is a good time, and the game looks great too. I really like the art style of the like hand-drawn, painted style that it goes with is really pretty. And then after that, just Super Mario 3D World. I've been playing some more on my own. I'm on the last section. There's one of the puzzle rooms in the last area that is long that I haven't done yet. That's like, what, 40 green stars or something?
I think it's 30.
30?
Yeah.
My God.
I did like 10 of them, and then I died. I'm just like, I'll do that later.
Yeah, it's kind of a remix of all the ones, some of the main ones throughout the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of repeats in there. So I'll get to that eventually, and then it's just that, and then the final level that I have left to do on there.
We beat that together.
Single player. But yes, I have also been playing a multiplayer with you guys, and we beat that. Beat the main story.
Did. Officially my first time beating it. My first ever beaten 3D Mario. So that's what we did it, guys. The year of 3D Mario has officially kicked off.
Finally. It's finally here.
So got 2 bonus worlds to do, I believe. The rainbow. I don't even know how it works.
We've got a few. Yeah, there's quite a few bonus levels.
Yeah,
A few bonus worlds we can still be doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
overall,
as I was playing those, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be interesting with all 3 of us playing and
they
dying
get hard.
and stuff. Yeah. Like, you get partway through and you're like, all right, this is okay. Especially if you're going for the green stars, though. It gets pretty brutal. And what I noticed is that when you get to some of those later levels, they do, like, most of the levels don't give you power-ups anymore. Like, there are certain levels where, like, you kind of need it to progress, so they give it to you. But a lot of them are just like, nope, and you're just rolling with what you got. So it'll be interesting to see how we do. But we have unlimited lives, so it's whatever. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot single player. I think that it does bring something entirely new to the table with multiplayer, especially if you get a good group of people together to play it with, like we got right here. But I think whether you only play it single player if you don't have anyone else to play with, or you play it multiplayer, I think it's worth your time. Especially
plus Bowser's Fury.
Bowser's Fury is also in there, so I think it is totally worth it. Zach, what were your thoughts on beating it? Since you hadn't beaten it.
Oh God, I loved it a lot. I thought that game was super fun, especially playing with you guys. I thought the whole multiplayer aspect really made it very stressful, but also very fun.
When you just run off somewhere else and we're like, where'd he go? And then we're dead.
The biggest issue is that I played the last half of that game with some terrible Joy-Con drift. So I was dying. I died like 100 times. You guys can attest to that. I would just walk right off for no good reason.
Yeah. You bought a new controller though, right?
But yes, after experiencing the horrible drift on both sets of my Joy-Cons, I went out and bought a Switch Pro controller, which now playing without drift, it's like the best feeling in the world. Like once you know how bad it can be, without not having it is the best feeling.
I'm surprised you suffered through it for that long. That's brutal.
Well, it was only bad for like 3 days.
But didn't you have another set that broke?
Yeah, but that was I had my red pair that I used pretty much since I bought the thing, and then they started to drift pretty bad, so I went back to the pair that came with my Switch, and then now those are drifting. So the Switch Pro controller, I'm probably gonna have to send in my crappy ones to Nintendo so they can either send me new ones or fix my existing ones. It is not okay that those expensive little controllers are as bad as they are.
Yeah, it's embarrassing how expensive these controllers are and how often they break. Like you go back to controllers from PS2, Xbox, GameCube generation, those things still work and they were like $20.
Yeah.
and these are what was it, 80 for the set? Or set 80 for the set, and they possibly will die on you in a year or two. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
And the worst part about it is that on both pairs it was the same Joy-Con, so I couldn't piecemeal them together into one working pair. So that was the most unfortunate part.
So you
but
just
it's
have
okay.
two one-side Joy-Con.
Yes, exactly. It's stupid. I hate it.
Oh, that's really dumb. Yeah.
And super detract from me having a bunch of fun playing 3D World. I think it's a great game. And then after that, I went back to play some Bowser's Fury. That is gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. That little game looks really good. I haven't played the whole thing. I've only gotten like 15 or so shines. The cat bell, just the whole thing. It's just a really fun time. And if that's what I've got to look forward to in terms of later 3D Mario, it's making the Mario 64 go a lot better.
There are a lot of high points. If you think that game looks good, Mario Odyssey is just more of that.
Yeah.
So that's good on that end. And then, Kevin, were you done with all the stuff you've been playing this week?
13 Sentinels.
Kevin, I want to know
Mario.
I want to know where you'd rank 3D World in your Mario ranking.
Ooh, well, Odyssey is first for sure. I think that right now I would still slot it below the Galaxy games. I think that part of it is nostalgia, playing those as a kid, but then going back and playing Mario Galaxy 1 and having as good a time with it as I did, I still think I slightly prefer the Galaxy games, but it's probably pretty close. I think I go with Odyssey. I haven't played Galaxy 1 and 2, or I haven't played Galaxy 2 yet in a while, so I'll just bunch Galaxy 1 and 2 together, and then I'd probably put 3D World right below that. And then
that makes sense.
Sunshine 64.
Yeah, I would say, like, if I ranked the multiplayer and single player versions separately, it would be Odyssey, 3D World multiplayer, the Galaxy games, 3D World single player, and then
yeah. But it's still great, and it's close.
Yeah, it's
to
a great game.
games.
Oh, and 3D Land above 64 and Sunshine, I think.
Ooh. I think I put Sunshine over that. Again, maybe nostalgia. But 64 is on the bottom. That game has some issues. Zach, any further on that? You still trudging through 64?
I'm trudging. It's now that I've got it was basically unplayable with the drift, but now that I've got the Pro controller, it's going smoother.
Yeah, because Mario will walk off the platform even if you don't have drift. So I can only imagine
exactly
how much worse it was when you did have drift.
Maybe the drift made it better, and I just didn't know it. It was
Mario
drifting
was
in the opposite
himself.
direction.
Yeah.
Other than that, briefly, I played some more Jak 3, just getting through that on occasion. Still good. I remember the desert town looking so ugly. It's very bland. The desert's a little bland, which is fine.
Jak
I still really enjoyed the
hideously bland. So
the driving mechanics are still fun. I like them a lot. The missions are fun and varied. So still having a good time with that. And the dialogue, I think, is still pretty funny. So that's good. And then I've got some first impressions that I'd like to talk about.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
I decided to play a couple hours of Days Gone, which is now free on PS Plus for April. So it was also coming off of the Deathloop news, is that now that I will be potentially pushing my PS5 purchase, which was some crazy alliteration right there. there's going to be a bigger and bigger library of stuff I want to play as soon as I buy it. So me playing Days Gone on PS5 is a little less viable.
Yeah,
I think I just want to get it out of the way.
Unless you love it so much on PS4 that you play it again on PS5.
I play it twice this year, then that's a different situation.
Year of Days Gone.
Yes. So I booted up Days Gone just to see what it was like, and it is very, 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 very Last of Us, Uncharted, and a little bit of Far Cry, I think. It's fun. It's very fun to play. I don't like the story. I haven't, you know what? These are just first impressions, so the story could get way better. I don't like the story so far.
I don't think it does. From what I've heard.
Yeah, it's God. It's just so Last of Us. It starts off at like the first day of the apocalypse. We get very little information on who these people are. His friend is gut shot. He's got a buddy who's like holding the door closed, like from all the zombies. And then it just cuts 2 years later into the apocalypse. I'm like, that's the exact cold open from The Last of Us. It's fine. And then another little thing I noticed is that the loading screen is just like his ring in the bottom right corner, just spinning like in Uncharted.
Like Uncharted, yeah.
that was kind of funny.
Is Sully in the game?
He is not yet in the game.
Dang it.
He's the friend. He's the friend
it's Sully.
But he survives.
It's the only way Sony Ben could make the game. Sony was you gotta put some Uncharted in there. You gotta put some Last of Us in there, else it won't sell.
Then in terms of gameplay, the crafting of items like Molotovs and medkits almost exactly the same as Last of Us. And then what was it? There's a stealth hearing mode that like the one that Joel has. That's also the same. Okay.
How's the
and then other than that,
the bike stuff? I've heard that can be kind of interesting of just like bike management.
So the very first thing you do in this game is a bike chase. And a little hard to control. It was fun. Got a nitrous boost for some reason, which is cool. But there's like weird rubber banding, so it doesn't really feel like you're making progress on the person chasing. They like keep same distance away from you.
Boost?
I don't know. It's a little weird on that. There's some ramps that you can take, and the first time I took a ramp, I like skidded across a tree and it got a little jittery for a second, but it corrected itself. And then the second ramp I took, my guy just like crashed, and I had to get back on the bike, but the button command it was telling me to use wasn't working, so the guy got away and I had to restart from the beginning of the chase, which was like 2 minutes earlier.
Oh my god. Joseph, get it together. Come on.
But then I made it through the chase just fine, and then we got some introduction into the zombies. I think the zombies are cool. There's already some variation on the types of zombies. They all look similar, like I Am Legend type zombies where they're bald and skin, but there's like children variants that'll stay away from you. But it's also kind of sad because now there's children zombies, and I hit one with a bat and like squished it across the ground, and I was like, that was overkill. Jesus. But overall, even though it plays like The Last of Us plays really great, so it's a fun game, and the driving mechanics are fun. So I'm having a good time, and the story is fun to make fun of right now. So I'm just excited to see where it goes. Glad I'm playing it for free, especially.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yep.
The amount of times I almost bought this game is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now you get the free. Well, I'm looking forward to the continued thoughts on Days Gone in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Hopefully I keep playing it. Who knows? And then other than Pac-Man 99, Logan, has there been anything else you've been playing, or should we get right into our Monster Hunter Rise continued thoughts?
Just Monster Hunter. That's it.
All right. So then I'll let you kick off this discussion of the post 30-hour mark. Well,
unfinished game.
New things. Yep. New things. End game. You can call it that. What are we feeling?
Yeah, so we finished it. I should start there. We beat the game, beat the final boss, and we still have a lot to do. But starting with kind of the negative stuff, this game's just straight up not done. It's just not. If we talked about it last week, how they have a new ending launching in Title Update 2, which is coming out in 2 months or a month and a half. And I was like, what's a new ending mean?
It's going to be the original ending.
There's no ending right now. So basically what happens, I'll stay spoiler free if you care about Monster Hunter stories. Not the
Go
game,
kill the monster,
actual story.
save the people or something.
So basically what happens is you go and fight the final. You light spoilers, I'll say. Light spoilers from this point on. You don't actually slay the final boss, right? It just kind of the fight ends for other reasons. You don't actually slay it. You go back. They set up this big twist with two of these characters that are in the town, and then you talk to the character who usually gives you your quest, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you go take a break? Come back. We'll tackle this later. Go take a break." And it's basically telling you, "Yeah, put the game down. Come back." And added. What?
It's like, come
I've
back
never
on
seen
July 28th,
like that.
2021.
And I'm not seeing anyone get upset over this. And it's like, I'm not super upset because we've still put over 40 hours into this game and still have a lot left to do. So it's not like it was like a 10-hour thing and it's come on back, because there's still a ton of content in this game. But like if a game as a service launched like this, I think people would be kind of upset. Because it just kind of ended and they're like, come on back. The credits don't even roll. It's like they roll in a different point in the game. Finish the single player content, the credits roll. They don't roll here. And then you're just launched back into the hub world and you can just take on quests, and that's just it. Really weird, Zach.
Yeah, and once you do get, not even you get credits once you finish all the village quests, that's just the quests leading up to when you start the hub quests. I went back and finished every village quest that was available in this game, and I got nothing for it. They didn't even congratulate me on it. So now it's just a big list of check marks that doesn't really mean anything. So
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so it's just bizarre that, I mean, I have the utmost faith they're going to support this game. You just look at what they do in Monster Hunter World. You look at how they've already have a roadmap of content planned out. It's not like a Cyberpunk situation where like the game plays great. It looks
it's not
amazing.
like,
it doesn't have
Anthem
any issues.
where you're worried that they'll have to push off the roadmap to fix the game. That's not it.
Which is a better way to be unfinished. It's better that it's like, okay, you hit the 40-hour mark and you have to wait for content. That's better than this game is just broken and does not play well type of unfinished. So it's much better than that, but I just found it really strange that it's like, it literally told us that the content doesn't exist yet. Like, it's just super weird. But besides that, I really enjoyed the last week that we had with the game. The quests are getting a lot more difficult, I think, even with us upgrading our armor and weapons, starting to die more, and starting to have some more trouble with some of these fights. So I think it was just a case of we were breezing through the single-player stuff. When we played the single player stuff, when we played the early missions and good at the game yet, so we kept dying. But now we're good at the game, so that was kind of a breeze. But I don't know, Zach, have you felt like the challenge has been going up lately?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're both starting to fall into some of the better builds that we want to lean towards, and we're trying to try out some new stuff and new weapons. But yeah, you're definitely dying like 2-3 times a quest, and I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? You know, I'm doing really well. Okay, just kidding. We are both dying at these quests of these it's the highest rank hub quests that actually do present some challenge, which is good because we're looking for a little bit of challenge. If you do breeze through the entire game and you don't find a lot of challenge, at least once you get to that point, whether you're in single player or with a group of people, those monsters do hit really hard, even if you have pretty high armor and you haven't started delving into the talisman charm RNG type of trying to get the best build you can and trying to optimize. It's definitely going to be a little bit of a challenge, which is nice because it actually makes you have to, you know, utilize your skills, your Silkbind skills and all of your abilities and try and beat this thing, which is fun time.
Yeah, so I think that we're starting to near the end of the content we have right now. I think World definitely had more content at launch. But again, I think that's another COVID impact. This game was supposed to come out last fall, according to leaked reports. And instead it came out in March and probably doesn't have as much content as they wanted to include out of the box. But I think we'll see a lot of endgame content get added in Title Update 1, which they're adding at least 3 monsters already that we know of. And then Title Update 2, which is going to add that story content. So I'm not worried about it. I was just like, kind of baffled when we finished that the other night, and we were like, "Oh, we're done. That's it." Yeah.
I guess
It's not like these.
the other positive is that you don't really care about the story too much, so it's not like you're waiting for this big reveal
absolutely.
or something that's not there.
Yeah.
So at least there's that, I guess.
It's not like the title updates are being pushed towards later in the year. I mean, the first title update comes out a month-ish after, like, a month after release, and then the story update comes a couple months after release. So they were close to finishing this. They just needed a little bit more time, but they wanted to meet that release date. So I'm glad it's as good as it is, and I'm excited for more.
Yeah, I think I actually like it more than I did last week. I think just with the challenge getting upped a little bit and us just getting more into kind of the end game stuff. I think that I was a little worried last week. I'm like, is this going to carry us until the next one comes out? And after this week, I think that I like it enough that it's going to.
You won't have to go back to the bootleg PS2 version to fill the time.
Something off about it, man.
There is.
The fact that it came in plastic.
It feels too glossy. It doesn't look like a real piece.
Yeah, weird. And then it was
Be confident that PS2 discs even say PS2 on the back rim.
Do you have another one?
Let me check Jack 2.
Ooh, Jack
exactly.
2. Disgusting.
It does.
Okay, good.
I think the disc is legit. I just don't think the case is legit.
Which, yeah, that's possible.
Which is whatever. Yeah.
Well, we'll check back in next week on if you found out if that thing's a bootleg or not. I'm very curious.
Reviews on the eBays.
It's always a risky
very
run
positive. Yeah, it's true.
Could get some crap, but oh well. All right, was that it? Is that it from the Monster discussion for this week? All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up, Monster Hunter or otherwise?
I'm excited for MLB next week.
See,
too.
Zach is there day zero.
Yeah, I'm excited to build a stadium. I think I could lose a ton of hours in creating.
I haven't looked into that too much. How in depth does it go?
Extremely. Like, it looks pretty crazy, and it's only on the PS5 version. I don't think it's even on the version.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Seems interesting. All right. Yeah. Look forward to that. $70. Oof. A little bit of an oof there when that thing's going to be $10 come a year from now, but hey, do what you can if you make it last for a couple of years.
Yep.
All right. That is going to do it for us on this week's episode of Ode to Games. Schedule is already going to be different for this one. Still unsure about that. This does not go up on the usual time, but check back in next week. Hopefully we'll have a better idea of the release schedule going forward. But for now, it'll be a little bit up in the air, and the episodes will kind of come out when they come out, probably at the end of the weekend usually. But yeah, next week we should have more information on that. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, other podcast streaming services that you may use. The audio version of the podcast is on our website, odetogames.com. The video version is up on our YouTube page, Ode to Games as well, so you can check that out there. You can find us on Twitter at Ode to Games, Twitch, Ode to Games as well. You can send an email to odetogamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.